So our group did pharmaceuticals and drinking water. So the introduction, basically this topic only came into being about 20 years ago. So there's not a lot of like recent data on the topic, and most of the data that's available is laboratory based, which means it doesn't really take into account the multiple things that can occur in nature that can like warp the results a little bit. Yeah, and these are two quotes that by researchers, and they tell us the limitations that they have because they don't have a lot of resources to look at beforehand, and also because they are really paving the way for the research, so they don't really have anything to look off.
All right, so I did the causes for this, and so there's a drug manufacturing company, it's called AstraZeneca, and they published an academic journal on how they manage safe pharmaceutical discharge, and in the beginning they used some statistics about how pharmaceuticals enter the drinking water supply. So Kyrie Hargreaves, who is a member of the Global Safety of Health and Environmental Division, said that pharmaceuticals enter the water through three typical methods. The first one is proper use, which is essentially just a patient taking the pharmaceutical and excreting out the rest, which the body metabolizes. That makes up 80%, which is a solid chunk of pharmaceuticals. The improper disposal makes up 10%, and that's typically through patients flushing drugs down the toilet or drain, which they don't need. And another prevalent example of this is shown with nursing homes in the healthcare industry, where if a patient essentially dies or doesn't need a drug anymore, nursing homes are essentially encouraged to just dispose of these in not safe methods, and that data was backed up by Harvard Health and Publishing. And that small sliver of 2% is just drug production and chemical runoff.
So some of the short-term effects are gender changes in fish, for example, which can be caused by hormonal drugs, such as like levels of estrogen in the water being contaminating the water and leading to fish changing gender and skewing male to female ratios inside water. This quote says, numerous studies have shown that estrogen from natural excrements, birth control, and menopausal hormone treatments and other chemicals has a feminizing effect on male fish and can alter female to male ratios. Intersex fish have been found in heavily polluted sections of the Potomac River, which is from Harvard Health Publishing. And basically what this means is that an entire ecosystem can be affected by the change of fish, which can lead to the decline of the population of fish, which can in turn affect the rest of the ecosystem negatively. Another effect is through indirect like poisoning or contamination, which can occur through scavengers. For example, in India or in the southern part of Asia, the gyps vultures, nearly 3 keystone species in the area, were wiped out when cattle farmers, cattle ranchers, used a drug called diclofenac, which is an anti-inflammatory antibiotic. And basically, the vultures were eating the dead carcasses of these cattle, and they were getting infected and they were dying, the population of vultures has not recovered yet. They're about like 99% reduced from their original population. And so this quote says, scavengers, for example, can be relied on carcasses of livestock and companion animals for food, often from landfills or provided as a conservation measure. This brings with it the potential for exposure to veterinary drugs used to treat domesticated animals. The foraging mode of Asian vultures and their sensitivity to certain SM aids resulted in the near extinction of 3 keystone species. Okay, so some long-term effects, for example, result from the hormonal chemicals inside the water, which can result in the chemicals spreading throughout food webs, which can lead to the collapse of ecosystems. And one of the However, like referencing the introduction, since there's not a lot of information on this data, chronic effects of pharmaceuticals are scarcely investigated. However, long-term exposures are needed for an accurate environmental risk assessment. That quote basically means that because there isn't a lot of research on the topic, chronic effects of pharmaceuticals and water haven't really been investigated too much deeply into.
Alright, so that was like environmentally and marine life-wise, but human-wise, we don't have a lot of data nor research as to what happens. So Leigh Borner, who works for PBS Nova, and Eileen Roy, who's a pediatric neurologist, had an interview where Roy stated that we don't really have a lot of studies that associate pharmaceutical residues in our water with human health problems. This is due to extremely minute parts per million or billion, and it's a combination of drugs, so we don't know to determine which one is causing health problems, if there are any. And we don't have a lot of long-term data as well, because pharmaceuticals were first brought to light in water in around the 1990s, with the main goal being birth control.
So there are solutions to help the problem of pharmaceuticals in water. So one is reducing improper disposal in order to eliminate around 10% of pharmaceuticals entering the drinking water supply. So Sam said that 10% of pharmaceuticals enter the water by commercial use, by people just like flushing them down or just chucking them into like bodies of water. And second are low-cost absorbents. So the first solution, so Harvard Health Publishing has used a 4-point program for how to reduce our pharmaceutical footprint by limiting bulk purchases, using drug take-back programs, properly disposing of medications, and dispose of medicines with unappealing substances to prevent accidental consumption. Karine Hargreaves, a member of the Global Safety of Health and Environment Division, wrote that pharmaceuticals enter the environment for 3 main methods, which are potential patient 88%, improper disposal 10%, and drug production and runoff just 2%. So, with the 4-step program that Harvard Medical School offered, we can eliminate this 10%, or at least most of it. Even though it's only 10%, we can still make a difference. But also, it's only 10%, we can't. It's really difficult to limit that other 88% Sam mentioned, but 10% is a good start. So our second way,
we'll finish tomorrow.
Easy! Oh my God!